Hello again, my fellow Jeti users, and welcome back to my workshop for another of Harry's little Jeti Clinic videos. And in this video, which is going to be episode 4 of the Google Maps Lua application, what I have for you is a description of a significant update to the app, which sorts a small number of things out and introduces quite a lot of new functionality. So let's have a romp through what we've got. First of all, a couple of bug fixes. The original version of the app could sometimes crash when you were coming out of the map browser, and that's been fixed. And there were also occasional issues creating the map repository on the website when you were close to 180 degrees of longitude. And so thanks to Dave in New Zealand for his help in resolving that. Okay, a couple of notes as well. Dave had originally considered releasing this update version as a .lc file. That means that the program was pre-compiled, which makes it easier on the processor in the transmitter. But although we've been trying it and using the app that way, it would have created too many upgrade headaches for many of our pilots. So this update release will remain as a .lua. If you have been using some of the development versions rather than the sort of main published version with the .lc file type on your transmitter, they'll also show up in the user applications menu as DFM maps. And if you've loaded that, you'll know they're out of date since you won't have the current version number. You can remove the file dfm-maps.lc from your apps folder to clean this up. Make sure you're just left with the .lua. And prior versions, such as the original 7.24 release, this is version 8 something, will still be available on the website, though we do recommend you update to this version. And to do that, go back to the original map generating website and be sure to reload or refresh the page to make sure you've got the latest version of the website code and create a new Jeti repository with your fields. Confirm that your repository address is still properly stored in Jeti Studio, and then use Studio's Lua App Manager to uninstall and reinstall DFM maps. And in addition to supporting the app installation with Jeti Studio, we now also offer you a zip file for manual download from the website and then manually install it onto your transmitter. And that contains the app and your personalized map data. Now, we recommend you keep doing it through Studio, but a very small number of people have problems with Studio. Sometimes their computer has out-of-date certificates and they won't let it work with either Studio or I think it's the website map generator. And a small number of people also with Apple Macs find that they cannot open the transmitter wizard in Studio. It's grayed out. So if you can't get the whole thing to work through Studio, then you can get the zip file from the web map generating website. Okay, on to the fun bit, the new features and changes. In general, language translation is now enabled, and this new version has the original English, but also translations for German and Czech and French. If you want to contribute a translation of a language that's not already done, have a look in the file on your transmitter, the DFM maps /language/readme for instructions, and then contact us. So many thanks to Klaus for the German translation, Pascal Amédée for the French translation, and Pavel and Martin for the Czech translation. A new one, if you have multiple fields at one location, typically due to wind-related orientations or multiple runways, the app will now remember the version that you last selected using the manual field selection menu, and it'll go directly to that field when it's restarted or when coming back from Map Browser, rather than just going to the first version of the field in the list. So thanks to Simon in Australia for suggesting that one. There is now a new menu item in Settings Airplane Icon. The original version came with what you can see on the screen here, the little jet model. If we go to the applications, no, I didn't want that version of it, just go into GPS maps, settings. You can now choose from a jet, a glider, or propeller model. And I feel proud because I managed to work out how the system works and make the propeller model myself. For example, choose glider. Okay, to that one, come out of there. And now it's hard to see it because it's already, due to GPS jitter, been putting up a lot of yellow little tracks where we are. But you can just about see a glider thing there. You can still create your own icons if you want. For instance, you create a file, .jsn, in the directory DFM maps /JSON. Any spaces in the model name would have to be replaced with underscores. The icon is a connect the dots drawing specified as a JSON file. You can see examples in that directory. Get out a piece of graph paper, plot out one of the examples to see how it works. It's very straightforward. So we're happy to take contributed icon files and add them to the menu in future releases if you wish. Another new one. You can now set up a switch to turn the no-fly warnings on and off. In the settings no-fly announcement, there we are. If this switch is not assigned, then the menu check boxes control the no-fly warning announcements, this one, as they have previously. So if that is switched on and there's nothing in the no-fly announcement switch, then it will announce no-fly. If the switch here is assigned, then it must also be active here to allow the warnings. The two of them together must be on. And so thanks to Jochen for suggesting this one. Okay, another new one. Dave has added a setting to do light or dark backgrounds on the map and triangle views. And we'll come to triangle views in a minute. So this is in addition to the original image of the Google Map background. Image view of the Google Map is not available on the new triangle view. So let's have a little look at that. It is in race parameters, screen mode. So at the moment it's set to image. If I want, I can choose light. Have a look at that. So it gets rid of the map and you just see a shape of the track. These lines here are because I've got triangle switched on. Or you can choose dark. Dark mode seems to be the thing these days. And it will look like that. And the dark would also come across on the new triangle view, but you can't put Google Maps on that one. And we'll see that in a minute. So let's go back to the Maps view, the image. There we are. And also, a new thing, added a checkbox to the telemetry sensors menu. To treat a GPS altitude reading as absolute or relative. And this is primarily meant for GPS units that are not supported in the app for auto configuration and are assigned manually by the pilot in the telemetry sensors menu. So the checkbox determines whether or not the field elevation that the app is getting from Google Maps is subtracted from the GPS altitude reading or not. In absolute mode, it does the subtraction, otherwise not. So the auto-configured GPSs, which are currently the Jeti GPS, the Tero Salmonen's GPS that you build yourself from the RC-Thoughts website, Powerbox GPS 2 and 3, the FlyMate Pro, and the Elite GPS Data Logger. They all take care of this automatically. Note that as a last resort, you can override field elevation in the settings field elevation adjustment menu. And Dave's happy to add additional GPSs to the auto configuration file if we can get information from pilots. And hopefully we'll be adding the SM model bow one fairly soon to the auto configuration. So remember, you can use any GPS that Jeti will work with. If it's auto configured, it'll fill all these boxes for you. If not, you just have to manually set them all. Okay, it is now possible to create IGC compliant log files, which record the flight parameters in a standardized format. And this is often used actually in the full-size gliding world, and I think it might be used by the model GPS Triangle Racing fraternity as well. File names are in the long name standard format, and log files are stored on the transmitter in the apps /DFM maps /IGC directory. So post-flight visualization of these files can be done with an Android app or a web-based tool. For example, on the web, igcviewer.bgaladder.net. And you can use the USB connection to the transmitter to download the IGC log files to a mobile device or PC for viewing at the flying field. In order to record IGC log files, go to the Settings menu and enable the check box for the Record IGC log file. There you go. You'll need to restart the app in order to record the IGC file. Similarly, if you uncheck the log file recording, you need to restart the app. And you can make multiple recordings in a flight. If a race ends and you continue flying, the first log file is closed. You can then rearm the start, and this will create the next log file in the naming sequence. And to support logging of pressure, altitude and vario values in the IGC log files and make these available for offline analysis, Dave has added entries on the telemetry sensors screen for an altimeter, such as a barometric altitude, relative or absolute, for a standard vario, e.g. the vario from the Jeti M-vario, and for a TEK or total energy vario. If any of our pilots are using TEK compensated varios, I'd be happy to work with them to test this, as at the moment we don't have access to one. But Dave has put the code already into the system to be able to deal with it. Okay, more new features and changes, but those which are specific to the Triangle Racing. Dave's added a second full-screen telemetry window. Previously, we only had the map view, which you enable with the timer sensors, displayed telemetry. And you'll see there's now a second choice called Triangle View. So if we come out of here, go to timer sensors, displayed telemetry, you can now add another one called Triangle View. Same way as before, press plus, go to Lua. Now previously you could only select the map view, now you can select Triangle View as well. You can have one or both. Okay, go back to here, so there's map view, press this button, move along, and here's Triangle View. Now the original map view is an overhead view of the field with a fixed orientation determined when you created the map. In other words, the map stays stationary and the little icon of the aircraft flies around it. The new view is intended for GPS Triangle Racing, and it orients the window to line up with the direction of travel. And the little aircraft icon stays stationary, and this time it's the map and the triangle course rotate around the aircraft perspective. It's moving around at the moment because we're just sitting stationary in my workshop, so the GPS is struggling to pick up signal and it thinks it's jittering about very slightly. There are menu items to set the size of the window. So if we go to the flight history, and triangle scale view, and the length of the history ribbon, so triangle view history points. And the number of history points in this new view is restricted to a lower number than the map view because of the additional computational load of rotating the images instead of just the aircraft. Okay, another new change, which might require you to re-enter previous changes that you made to your racing triangles. If we come back out in here, Dave has removed the triangle settings menu. Now, that was the one where you could offset the triangle, rotate it, change its size. All edits of the triangle racecourse are now done in the map browser. And doing it this way allows you to see the changes on the screen as you make them. If you want to change the values, just browse, check, set your field. And there we are. Now, you can do this even if the telemetry is not live and you're not at the field you want to edit. In other words, you just choose the field you want. We're just using the live one. So as before, this button here allows you to cycle through moving the X value. Tell you what, we'll move out a little bit so you can see there's the red triangle here. So you can shift the X value, the Y value, rotate the triangle, change the length of it, in other words, size. But now there is an additional one, which is the offset of the triangle. And the offset is the aiming point at each apex. So when the app is trying to steer you towards the turn point, it doesn't aim you straight at that point. There is an offset aiming point a little bit beyond, which gives you a little bit of latitude for turning in. If you were running, for instance, along here and you're very close to the line and it tells you to turn left, a couple of degrees, and you turn left a little bit too far, you're going to cut inside. So the aiming point is just slightly beyond it. And you can change that offset of the aiming point to be larger or smaller. And then you'd have to press the save button, F5, to save the values. The values in the map on the main website are not changed, but the app remembers these adjustments when the same combination of model and field is used. Which brings us on to neatly into the next change, which again might require you to re-enter previous changes you made to your racing triangles. In previous versions of the map, if you edited the triangle race course with the map browser, those edits were saved with the model. And that's not ideal, since the edits would be applied to any field where you used that model. And so Dave has changed this so that the triangle edits are saved by a combination of the model and the field. So the changes are unique to that model and field, which is what we believe pilots would really have intended. So remember, you will have to re-enter any triangle edits done previously with this new version. Okay, some pilots have been experimenting with a version of GPS triangle racing while slope soaring. And ideally, this would be a straight line course with only 2 pylons, which wasn't really possible to set up. But Dave has done something to help with that experimentation, which is to add a setting in the race parameters. And it's the triangle height scale. There we are. The number here is a percentage. And so you can shrink or extend the vertical leg, i.e. 0.2 of the triangle, from 1% to 400% of the original size. And the original size, as specified by triangle racing rules, is the default 100%. And so if you were to bring this down to 1%, then 0.2 would virtually be a straight line between points 1 and 3. So almost emulating a 2-pylon course. Next, Dave has added a switch to the race parameters menu for detecting use of a throttle during a triangle race. Where are we? There we are. So you just go in there, assign your throttle as you would, set the up, mid, down switch, and Make sure it's working the correct way with the check mark when the throttle is on and the X when the throttle is off. So for pre-flight confirmation that the throttle detection is armed and ready, he's added a red-green circle just above the existing circles that show the race status. Oh, you might get this in triangle view, no heading. What it means is the model's not moving, therefore the app can't work out what heading or direction it's traveling in, and therefore it can't put up the triangle view because it doesn't know which way to move it. And just because of jitter, it's come back. It thinks it's got one. So if we were to come here, where you have the circles here telling you whether you've got a race is on, a valid start, etc., an additional dot adds there. So once the switch is assigned, but before the race starts, the circle would be red for throttle on and green for throttle off. And once the race starts, if the use of throttle is detected, it will set the circle to red and keep it red. And the subtitle line that appears up top with your scores will turn red and remain red, and THR for throttle would be appended to the subtitle scoring line. So if you're trying to have a little race with anyone else, they can see whether you've nudged the throttle. And a maximum altitude setting has been added to the race parameters menu. Here it is down here. And that's because the triangle racing rules require a maximum altitude for a race. That's not that one then, is it? There you are, maximum race altitude. If the altitude's exceeded, an error will be recorded and the subtitle line of the score will turn to red, and the letters ALT for altitude would be appended to the line to indicate exceeding the maximum altitude. And finally, Dave's added this display of something called index to the overhead map screen. So it would appear here when you're racing, and also to the triangle screen, to this one. And the value is only displayed when triangle racing, and the value is updated with each lap. The index is the total distance flown in a lap divided by the perimeter of the triangle, and then multiplied by 100. And if the IGC log file is running, an L or comment record is stored with the index value for the lap. So I suppose that tells you how efficiently you are flying, because if your index was 100%, then you'd manage to fly exactly up the lines of the triangles. If your index is 300%, you're flying a much bigger course than the minimum triangle. Okay, that's everything, folks, and have fun with that. If you have any more suggestions for what the app could do let us know, and Dave will always see if he can include it. Bye for now.